Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space, where I take stories from across the internet and read them for your entertainment. This particular story is called Silos, written by TheloniousHowe. Ketch was exhausted. It had been 4 suns since he had set out on his most noble of endeavours, and his constant flying and disappointment had left him absolutely worn out. So he drove himself towards the ground in search of a safe perch, somewhere that would be high enough to keep him out of line of sight of ground-based predators, and away from trampling hooves of larger creatures, yet low enough that the airborne raptors and plagued people would also not be able to notice him. That's when he spotted it. The single human marking up trees in an odd fashion. He knew, from personal experience, mind you, that humans were large and friendly, but could also have a fierce streak, and tended to enjoy the company of smaller critters, which meant that they would be able to fend off any nosy hunters that ventured too close. Therefore, humans were generally safe, and this one could provide him a momentary respite to recuperate his stamina and prepare to deliver terrible news to his tribe. As he drove towards the unsuspecting mammal, something stopped him. He was caught in midair. Now being held aloft in such a state could only mean one of 2 things. 1, he had caught an appendage on some wayward piece of flora that had neglected to notice, or 2, he was caught in a predator's grip. Considering he was simply being held in place, and not currently dragged some direction he definitely did not want to go, he concluded it was the former, and sighed. Yes, he could pull off the appendage, and yes, it would regrow during these next molt. But he had just molted, and being suchly disabled for the coming season would be an aggravating annoyance. He prepared his manipulator claws to tear at his own chitin, when a voice gave him pause. Nope. He turned one of his compound eyes to face the source. It was a second human, who had somehow avoided his attention, whose hand was firmly grasping onto one of his aft legs. Jenkins is absolutely horrified of spiders, it continued. And you're basically a flying spider, so you're liable to give him a coronary. What the hell are you doing anyway?
Much apologies,
Ketch said. His human was definitely lacking.
Very exhausted. Was hope respite.
Well, all right then, replied the human, as it seemed to ruminate on Ketch's statement. You can boast up on me for a while if you're that tuckered. I don't mind. Still got to work, though, so hope that doesn't bother you. Ketch breathed a small sigh of relief.
So you are not afraid of spider?
The human did that low, growly bark that Ketch had been told was a sign of amusement, and he was very glad to have that information. Otherwise, he would have sounded very similar to a prowling snarl and given him a deathly fright. No, I'm not afraid of spiders. Ketch made a few rounds of available places that he could post up and settled on the human's forearm. It was warm and soft, yet somehow firm, and the perfect place for him to catch his breath. He watched silently as the human continued its work, inspecting and marking various trees in the underbrush.
Excuse,
he asked.
What is to?
Oh, this. The human pointed at the tree it had just marked. These ones got blight. Jenkins and I are marking them for felling, trying to keep them from spreading. This cut deep. Ketch knew all too well of blight. It was why he was out here to begin with. It had taken most of the season's yield, and now threatened the very survival of his tribe. He'd been tasked with finding a new arable land to farm, and had only come across suitable lands that were already claimed.
No blight,
he said sadly.
Tribe sent find new land produce. Failure. Only find claim. Or sand and rock. No dirt.
The human stopped its work and looked out at him. So that's what you're doing, aren't you? I was wondering a bit, but figured it was impolite to ask. Don't see too many of your type out this far. Ketch waved a foreleg in affirmation.
Truth, not safe venture, stay haven. Desperate our rest set in.
The human's face dropped. I'm sorry to hear that. It's getting that bad?
Now that bad, Ketch replied. Tribe threaten, eldest thing to send young away. Possible starve in seasons come. Supply reserve hold, temporary.
The human's expression changed again, this time to one that Ketch couldn't recognize. Now don't mind me asking, what is it you guys eat?
Fruit, primary, berries, winery harvest, then many sugars needed. Build shell, energy heavy.
Well, ain't that the pits, the human sighed. The blight had gone extra hard on crop plants, ravaging their spindly stalks and delicate leaves harder than most things. The human's eyes narrowed, and Ketch thought that it might be having some sort of medical emergency, as it stopped moving altogether for a moment. It then suddenly brought up its other arm, and using its manipulating digits, made a strange cracking sound. Got an idea? Did you happen to see a couple of big green buildings when you were flying about?
Yes, saw long build, unclaimed, unrock, no good farm both way, Ketch replied.
The land under them isn't important, neither is the claim. It's the building, the space. We're using them as storage for old gear, so I think that we could clear them out and set up aeroponics in them. That's growing stuff without dirt. Don't ask me how it works, I have no idea. I just know it does. It would be a matter of getting it set up. How far would you say it is from your home? Best guess.
Half sun fly at most,
Ketch answered. Is that doable for you regularly? Like, it won't push you guys too far to make that kind of trek?
Ketch's mandibles chittered dismissively. Easy done.
Hey, Jenkins! The human suddenly bellowed to its compatriot, throttling poor Ketch something fierce. Don't turn around, but I got a question for you. I don't like the sound of either of those things. Does this have anything to do with whoever it is you're yammering with back there? The second human called back. Yeah, it does. And your arachnophobia. So just don't look at me and tell me. Your sister still work in the aeroponics depot? Yeah, why? Jenkins' voice had taken on a slight quiver at the revelation. Got a small fry here whose farms got hit hard by blight. What would it take to set up something in the old warehouses, fruits and the like? Jenkins chuckled a little. The flying tarantulas are in trouble. Probably not much. Clearing them out will be a bitch, but shouldn't be impossible. Ketch noticed the human he had landed on nod slightly. This, Jenkins went on. This feels like a massive fucking joke, by the way. Sarah used to keep spiders as a kid, mostly just to freak me out, I think. Anyways, I'll give her a shot, and being soft as she is, she will probably have all the whole thing set up by Monday. Thanks for the heads up, by the way. The human Ketch was resting on turned back to him. There, sorted. It'll be a couple of months before we can get a full harvest, so I hope your stocks can last until then, but you'll be fine after that. Ketch appreciated what the humans wanted to do, but the amount of food they required, as well as the technology and space that their needs would take up, couldn't possibly be recompensed.
Tribe is much comfortable, but not worldly possession, are not able to great pay,
he said softly. Payment? Nah, don't worry about anything like that. Where I come from, we just call that being neighborly. We'll get you straight, don't you fret none. The human's mouth curved up, and though he didn't actually know what it meant, it brought Ketch a feeling of comfort. So he prepared himself to say goodbye to his newfound saviour, and head, with much haste, back to his tribe with good tidings. But as he stood and tried to flare his elytra, he found them quite disagreeable. It seemed that he was more exhausted from his grand search than he had originally thought. So he decided to risk yet another favour from the strangely accommodating alien.
Fine sleep?
He asked. More beat than you thought, huh? The human's mouth did that strange curling. Yeah, little buddy. Take all the time you need. So Ketch nestled himself down a little further onto the human's forearm, and as he drifted off to sleep, he couldn't help but wonder, did these humans know what a boon they were to the rest of existence? End of story. I'd greatly like to thank our Tier 5 channel members, Caspar Arnholtz, John Creighton, Manatharia, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.